You think collapse is loud, explosions, screams, instant endings, but real collapse, it begins quietly, in habits, in priorities, in what people slowly stop valuing, until one day, what looked unshakable falls. And when Baghdad fell, it wasn't just a city that was destroyed, it was a signal, a moment that exposed how far things had already declined. Because by the time the Mongols arrived, the damage was already done, internally. And that's the part most people don't want to face, because it's easier to blame the outside, the invaders, the force, the violence. But invasions don't destroy strong systems, they expose weak ones. And Baghdad, once the center of knowledge, had already begun to drift. This wasn't just any city. This was the heart of a civilization, a place where ideas were built, where scholars led, where knowledge wasn't just respected, it was pursued. Libraries filled with books, scholars pushing boundaries, a culture built on learning. But slowly, that culture shifted from discipline to comfort, from purpose to luxury, from building to maintaining. And when that shift happens, strength begins to fade, not instantly, but inevitably, because systems don't collapse overnight. They weaken first. Corruption creeps in, leadership loses clarity, priorities become scattered, and the focus moves away from what created strength to what sustains comfort. And that's exactly where Baghdad was. So, when the Mongols approached, it wasn't just a military threat. It was a test of everything that remained. And the reality? There wasn't much left. No unified defense, no strong response, no preparation that matched the threat. Because internally, the foundation had already cracked. And when the foundation cracks, pressure doesn't just challenge you, it breaks you. The fall itself was devastating. Lives lost, knowledge destroyed, a city that once led the world, reduced to silence. But the deeper impact was psychological. Because when something that powerful collapses, it changes how people think. Confidence drops, direction is lost, and recovery becomes harder. Not because it's impossible, but because belief weakens. And once belief weakens, everything else follows. And that's why the effects didn't end that day. They carried forward, in mindset, in direction, in identity. Because after a major collapse, people don't just rebuild structures, they struggle to rebuild themselves. And that takes time. But here's the truth most people avoid. It wasn't the fall that defined everything. It was what happened after. Because history doesn't stop at collapse. It continues. The question is, how do you respond? Do you learn, rebuild, correct what went wrong? Or do you stay stuck, replaying the moment, without changing anything? Because collapse, on its own, doesn't end a civilization. Failure to respond does, and that's where the real lesson is. Because this isn't just about Baghdad, it's about patterns. Any system, any group, any individual that ignores its foundation will eventually face pressure, and that pressure will reveal everything. So, ask yourself, what are you neglecting right now? Where are you choosing comfort over growth? Where are you drifting instead of building? Because those small decisions are shaping your future, quietly, just like they did then. And if nothing changes, the outcome won't either. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Because awareness creates opportunity to rebuild, to refocus, to realign, but only if you act. So don't just look at history and feel the loss, understand the pattern, because the lesson was never just Baghdad fell. The real lesson is why it fell and what happens if you don't change. If this changed your perspective, subscribe, because the next video might change how you see history entirely.